The beloved HK416 or MR556A1 is one of the most sought after rifles in the market, but the price tag is one that most people are not willing to stomach. And while piston driven rifles do have advantages, weight and cost usually only go north when piston enters the chat. A couple years back, Brownells introduced the BRN-4, which is a fairly close clone to the 416 to give us common folk an option our significant others won't punch us in the face for spending those galactic credits on it. Now cue my autistic cloners out there, because we have the BRN-4 right here, which is a near clone to the 416. It's not a perfect clone to the 416, but let's also hear it for that Geisley rail right there, the Mark 15 for the HK416, because it took me like 9 months to get a hold of this rail because I just couldn't settle for anything less than that G-Money rail. We do have some supporters here, which I need to let you know about, the first of which being Shell Shock Protection. They make those earmuffs with the gel inserts on them that sound really good out there on the range. Also, the ballistic rated eye protection and sunglasses you can wear all day out on the range or out on the town. Block the haters and block the spall all at the same time. Of course, my Patreons, I cannot thank you all enough for the support you've shown me over the past couple years, and to Brownells for actually sending out the BRN-4 for the channel to do a review on. If you would also go ahead and tap rack bang that subscribe button, it really is a big help here to the channel, and it's free, so it doesn't cost you anything. So the BRN-4, right, the HK416 near clone. Now, piston rigs just hit different. They have a completely different feel out there on the range, which you can actually feel and see kind of in this footage. The BRN-4 runs fast AF, right? And the recoil is just slick. So they have the gas porting on this thing done just right. The HK416 is known for being a little bit over-gassed and a little bit violent on the recoil for a 5.56 rifle, right? We're not dealing with a big, long cartridge caliber here, but for a 5.56, they seem to have this thing dialed in. It probably also had something to do with the fact that I was running the Geisley Super 42 buffer and spring, that H1 in there, which is actually what Brownells recommends. And that braided spring and that combo just seems to do very well, whether it's like kind of middle of the road gassing or even a little bit higher when it comes to that recoil impulse. And you can see that kind of in the ejection patterns when you use that Geisley spring and that H1 buffer combo. This BRN-4 is sitting on the Aero Pro lower on there because it is compatible with mil-spec lowers, but I did run into a little bit of a fit issue once we get into talking about the upper and this rail specifically that you need to pay attention to depending on what lower receiver you have and if it is true mil-spec. And if you guys are interested in anything that you see here today, I will have that build list is the first link in the description down below. And for those of you that need the QR code, I'll put that right up here in case you're at work casting this to your employer's TV while enjoying a sweet slice of pizza on your lunch break. Let's talk about that thick chick Geisley rail on here and running this thing out on the hot Arizona July summer out there. Let me tell you, it's been a scorcher so far. So running this thing, at no point in time did I have to kind of take a break from it or glove up or feel that I couldn't hold on to that rail. And that has something to do with how thick that rail is. It's like quad rail thick, but since it's M-LOK, it's much more comfortable and I actually quite like it. There's a lot of girth to get a hold of right there, if that's your thing, but you don't have those like quad rail nubs grinding into your hand all the time. And I know you can get rail inserts for those things to make them more comfortable, but I'm just a bigger fan of M-LOK, even though the Block 1, Block 2 life is strong with the quad rail on some things. I just thought this thing was good to go. And after I shot Jonathan over at Tactical Toolbox's BRN-4 with his Geisley rail, I knew that was the way that I wanted to go with mine. As far as the rest of the range testing here, let's talk a little bit about what I did and what I pretty much do on most rifles over the past several years. I run 2 sets of drills, usually back to back, either day 1 and day 2 or all in day 1. And that's 250 rounds of drills followed by 250 rounds of drills. And I like to do it that way because 250 rounds is just above what a normal infantryman's loadout would be. And if you can get through that, you're gonna get a really good idea of what that rifle is gonna do, especially once you get a couple thousand rounds into it, how it's gonna run cold, how it's gonna run hot, how it's gonna run clean, how it's gonna run dirty. You got the right buffer in there, you got the right gas in there. All those things will kind of come out and let you know what it wants and needs as far as that rifle goes. And a great thing about piston rigs is they generally run a lot cooler and a lot cleaner, especially suppressed, than your standard direct impingement rifle, which is what most people out there own and see up on the shelf in a store. And while this piston system is very close to the 416 or the current model 416, it is not an exact clone of it. It is not adjustable, but it is forward vented, which we'll get into a little bit more when we talk about the barrel, the block, and everything else in that piston system. Hands down, the thing was just a performer out there. Running all of those drills back to back, the thing just felt great. That recoil impulse, it just hits different on a piston rig. The way that it's gassed, combined with that H1 and that Super 42 Geisley spring, just seemed to kind of be that sweet sauce, especially with that little bit thicker rail up front on this system, because since it is the HK416 piston system, that rail's a little taller, the upper receiver is also a little taller, so it's not your standard deck height, I guess you could say, of a normal DI AR. Now we are going to talk about a couple of issues here real quick, but let's get through the specs because there are some things that you really need to pay attention to when it comes to choosing the BRN-4, because they have several barrel profiles and different lengths on this thing. So you have the variety of a medium profile or a heavy profile barrel in a 10-4, 14-5, and a 16. I chose the 14-5 because overall that just seems to be a sweet spot. The barrels are made by Faxon, who makes a very nice barrel. They're made of 4150 chromoly vanadium. They are nitrided, button rifled, and finished off in 1/2x28 threads for all of your typical muzzle devices. Now the gas block on this is not adjustable, but it is vented forward, so everything is Mo Cleana in there, and we like Mo Cleana around here, right? And also, since it's vented, basically the system uses the gas that it needs, whether it's suppressed or unsuppressed, and vents the rest forward, so you're not getting all those carcinogens and gas and all that lead, vaporized lead or whatever, back into your face. The gas block is dual pin and fits over a notch onto the barrel, so it ain't gonna move unless you hook it up to the hitch on your truck. The bolt, since it's not direct impingement, has a sprung firing pin in there and no gas rings on it, obviously. The carrier is 8620 and the bolt is 9310 tool steel, but there have been some slight upgrades we'll talk about in a minute. The upper is standard 7075 aluminum, which is the good stuff. It mirrors the HK line, has the notch in it for standard HK 416 rails. And I used the Geisley rail, right? Because it's the one I wanted, but it is pricey. Now, those fit issues that I talked about up front. If you have a direct mil-spec lower, this upper should slap right on it. However, if you have any lower that has a little bit of a beefed up area for that takedown or the pivot pin up front, excuse me, you might run into a fit issue. I did have to grind a little bit out of the rail to get around the pivot pin material on the Aero Pro lower. All of my other basic mil-spec lowers fit right on there, no problem at all. So just something to pay attention to if you're gonna go with the Geisley rail. As far as the other rails, I don't have them to test fit, so I'm not sure if that would still be the case. But I'm assuming, since Geisley usually make things direct to spec, if you have a lower that's not direct mil-spec in that front area, I'm assuming the other rails are probably going to be made to the same spec and they might have a little bit of contact there that you need to deal with it. I don't care about that because that rail is going to stay on that upper forever, so it didn't mean anything to me to remove a little bit of material to make it fit my SBR lower that I wanted to keep the thing on. And I will have all of those other options as far as rails, and Brownells actually has a railed version completely available, complete and done for you, so you just slap it on your lower. All that stuff will be over at the build list, along with some ways to save galactic notes. The BRN-4 comes with a standard mil-spec charging handle, so I upgraded it to the Radian Raptor, which is my favorite. This one specifically with a little gas vents in it, because why not mitigate as much gas as possible in that system so you're not getting it back into the face. For the lower, I went with that Aero Pro Ambi, which is their new version. I've got a couple of those now. They seem very solid. I like the magwell on them. I like the design, the controls. On that lower, I have the Radian Talon Safety, which is my personal favorite. You can go 90 or 45. A Geisley SSP trigger, that's their performance single stage version, which is amazing. A BCM QD backplate, Geisley buffer tube, Geisley Super 42 and H1 spring system in there, and the furniture is a Magpul K2 grip and a Magpul MOE SLS stock, all of which are some of my favorite pieces to put on my rifles these days. And it's finished off out front with a Chemo muzzle device from Sons of Liberty Gunworks, but I honestly think I'm gonna change that to the Huxworks so I can run that Flow 5.56 can on this thing because it just seems to be a really solid rig. All right, let's talk range issues, problems, or anything that I would change, right? Because nobody gets a free pass here. So as far as the rail contact issue, went over that so you guys understand that. I did have one other issue occur out there on the range, and I knew instantly during the string of fire that something wasn't right. So I came up, was running a couple of rounds, and instantly something just kind of felt different, sounded different. The recoil impulse was different, and then when I went to work the safety, it wouldn't actuate, which is the telltale sign that your bolt did not cycle all the way back. Hold on. Did you hear that? You didn't feel that?
No, I heard the one.
The camera guy caught me initially saying, oh, did you hear that? Did you see that? And then as I started to go into what I thought the problem was, he shut the camera off. So basically, my opinion on what happened was I got a weak round or a low powder charged round because it just didn't cycle all the way. Took it out, made sure everything was good, put the same mag with the same ammo back in there, ran through the rest of the day. I think I had like maybe 100 rounds on it at that point or something like that, and everything else ran fine through the 500 plus rounds that are through this BRN-4 right now. And that was the only problem that occurred other than the rail contact issue. As far as other changes or things that I didn't like with how this thing was set up, the only other thing that I think I would really change on it is going to be that muzzle device just to run the Hux Flow 5.56K. But everything else on the range and how it turned out was just spot on. But there are a couple of things when I was reading through the forums that other people were talking about. Specifically, I know Jonathan did have one issue with a spring inside the bolt for the firing pin. His kind of ate itself alive. Now mine does have a little bit of deformation in there, so I'm going to keep an eye on that, but they've already upgraded and changed parts on the bolts, and the new bolts are actually chrome and have a different metallurgy on them. I think there's some S7 tool still on the extractor now. That spring is different for the firing pin. So it's kind of a non-issue since they've made those changes in line already. One other thing I did hear out there was that some people had some piston ring issues with the initial launch. I've checked the rings on this time each day after the range, and they are good to go. No problems there. They're not loose. There's no binding issues. They seem to be good to go. The only other thing that I saw that kept coming up was people didn't like the machining marks on the upper receiver, and there is some machining or tooling marks left on that upper receiver, and I can completely understand aesthetically why some people would not like that, but I could show you my SR-15 from Knight's Armament, which looks like it was made with a hammer and chisel. So I get it, sometimes that happens. Honestly, to me, I really don't care about those machining marks because it's not going to affect the function at all. But if you're into that extreme aesthetic thing, I can get that. Again, nobody gets a free pass here. I love the Brownells crew. I dig the rifle, I dig the setup, but everything that happens and everything that comes up and the information that I can find out there goes on camera so you guys will understand as much as possible about this setup. Other than that, I think overwhelmingly people were extremely happy with the BRN-4 setup being a really close clone to the HK416, as am I. Now, let's talk about the just as good statement. Is it, right? Is it just as good as an HK416? It's not an HK416. It's a near clone. It's not adjustable. It doesn't have that combat proven durability and reliability because all the big special mission units are running the 416, right? It's been carried by DevGr, it's been carried by Delta, it's been carried by the SAS and all kinds of people all around the world. So no, is it not as proven, but it's still pretty freaking awesome to have an affordable 416 clone that seems to be built to a very nice standard. But overall, I would have zero issues having this thing be a go-to rig for me. Now, is it worth it? Because I know that question's gonna be asked. If you want a piston 416 clone rifle, hell yeah, it's worth it. What I would like to see, I would love a 12.5 version of this thing. I think that would be just money to have a 12.5 in this rig. But if you're looking to do a clone that's really close to a 416, I really think this is probably the best one out there in the market right now. And cost factor wise, depending on you want the one that has the Midwest Industries rail on it, or Brownells actually has a quad rail right now as well, $11.99 or $12.99 with the rail. Or if you get the one like I did and you buy your Geisley rail, you're going to spend some more. You can also get the Midwest Industries rail separate. You can get the quad rail separate. And then I think another company that makes like quick detach systems also makes a rail for it. I forget their name right now, but they're known for making really good stuff. I think it's KDG, that's it, Kinetic Development Group. They make a really nice rail for it as well, but they're also very expensive. And again, if you're interested in seeing any of that, it's over at the build list. Make sure you guys get subscribed to the channel. Keep doing it out there on the range. And remember, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready.